guys, Heather here from Tye-Dyed Iguana, and today we're going to talk about a question that people ask us a lot at our shop. What size of food should I feed my pet reptile? Now when it comes to animals, they eat insects like your lizards, your geckos, your chameleons, stuff like that, your frogs. We've got a great tip on how to determine what size of food they should get. And no, it's not how big their mouth is or anything like that. It's actually the space between their eyes. Generally, you'll want to feed your animal an insect that is no bigger than the space between their eyes. So if you take that space between his eyes, that's about how big of an insect that you're going to want to feed him. Now when we're talking about what size insects to feed them, we're talking about their staple foods that they get every day. Like their crickets and their cockroaches, the thing that makes up the majority of their diet. Now it's just easier for them to digest and to chew and swallow food that is the size of the space between their eyes. It's much easier on them. For occasional treats, like when we feed ours hornworms, you can go a little bit bigger. It just takes them more time to take it down and it's a bit hard to swallow. You just don't want to go way too big or they'll have issues eating it at all. They'll probably not be able to swallow it and chew it up very well, so just don't go too big when you give them treats. We'll use these guys as our example for the prey item size. If you look between their eyes, they have a very small space, and that is about the size of our small crickets that are running around. So for their staple food, we feed them small crickets instead of medium, because mediums are a little bit too large for these guys. They're bigger than that space between their eyes, so we stick with the small size. And then you look at our little tegu down here. He may still be a baby yet, but since he's bigger, he has a bigger space between the eyes. So we go ahead and give him our large size banded crickets. Because actually large size banded crickets actually run a little smaller than your normal brown crickets. So he can already take down large banded crickets, can't ya? Yeah. Look at you, you're ready to hunt. We actually have a cool exception at our store. We have our river toads down here. And these guys' stomachs can't handle large prey items. Like, they have a large space between their head, but we just feed them large crickets. We don't want to go much bigger than that because their stomachs can't handle it. Say, you guys are the exception to the rule, aren't you? Yep. Now there are exceptions, as you saw, but in general, this rule of feeding them the prey item the size of the space between their eyes generally applies to all your more common pets, your more common geckos, your lizards, your bearded dragons, chameleons, and everything like that. So that's all good. Now when it comes to snakes, we have a general rule of thumb for them too. Most people think that you can tell what size of a rodent they need by how big their mouth is or how big their neck is. What you want to look at, actually, is the thickest part of their body. For this guy, that would be that section right there. You should generally feed them a prey item that is about 1.5 times the size of the thickest part of their body. You don't want to go much over that. But yeah, you want to definitely use the thickest part of their body to measure what size you need. Don't go by their throat, their neck, or anything like that. When they eat, that part of their body actually can stretch, so it'll definitely fit down their throat, even though it doesn't look like it might be able to. And using this rule of thumb will make sure that the prey item you pick out is large enough to be a nice filling meal, but not too large that it would cause a snake to regurge and not be able to swallow it right. Now another thing you're going to want to look out for is how long it takes them to eat. If it takes less than 10 minutes for them to eat, you can add another prey item of the same size. Now, if you pay attention to how long it takes them to eat the second one, if it takes them less than 5 minutes to get that second one down, then you know you probably got to increase the size of their prey they would get. So the next time you might just have to feed them just one, but you gotta pick out a bigger one. Yeah, timing how long it takes them to eat kind of helps you figure out when your snake is ready to kind of move up in size, especially when you've got a younger snake that's growing and you're not sure if it needs to go up in size yet. You can kind of time how long it takes them to take their prey down. some of our species though, like our colubras, especially like corn snakes, when they get to be adults, sometimes they will need 2 of a certain prey item. If you can't go over a certain size, if it's getting too big, you might just have to do 2 of the smaller one. So yeah, that's what it's like for our Amazon tree boas too. They're usually hungry enough to eat 2 smaller prey items that are about as big as they need to be. They can't go up anymore. So that's just kind of how it is. So yeah, if your animal has maxed out their current prey size and they seem super hungry and take it down really quickly, you might just have to end up giving them 2. So, and you won't be able to go up in size anymore. But one thing you do need to note if you need to feed your animal 2 prey items is make sure that the first prey item has worked its way about halfway down the body before you try feeding it the second one. That way they don't get the food crowded up and they don't end up regurging it when you try to feed them the second one. So yeah, those are some of our own tips for how to pick out the size of food for your pet reptiles and amphibians. Everybody's got their own way of figuring out what size food they should feed their pet reptile or amphibian, but these are some of the ways that we tell our customers that ask us for help, and these are the rules that we use ourselves when we feed our animals at our store. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.